And a good Wednesday to you. This is Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Gray Bar, driven by Munganass St. Louis Acura here on Claibs Online. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Mike Claiborne. And Claibs, you have reached the end of another spring training. You made it through. You are now in LA getting ready for the Cardinals season opener on Thursday. Congratulations to you and everybody else involved.
Yeah, thank you. We made it. It was I don't know how to describe this year's spring training because there were some highs, some lows. It was kind of bland in one way, but we started dealing with a lot of injuries, and that really kind of raised some eyebrows. But I haven't been to a spring training yet where somebody didn't get hurt.
But this many, 6 guys starting the season on the injured list. That's a lot, and there's some names on there too.
Yeah, and there's no pattern here. There's no pattern on the injuries and how guys, went down. I think, in the past, you accuse them from the training standpoint and all that kind of stuff, but that's not the case this year. I mean, guys just had a little ouchie, you had a collision. There's just a lot of different things that took place. So it wasn't one thing in particular. But, when you look around the game, there's a lot of people hurt. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the difference is there are some injuries that you say, well, that's unique. He tore something or he broke something. Yeah, you got a lot of soft tissue issues and things of that nature. And you want to bring guys along slowly as far as the rehab is concerned. But yeah, it's been tough. And throw in the fact that this schedule, this first month is brutal. This first road trip, it's brutal. The first 2 weeks is brutal. So you know what though? Can you use it as a partial excuse? Yeah, but I'm not. Just go play.
Facing off against a lot of potential playoff teams here in the early going, the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Phillies when they come back to St. Louis in that first homestand. Cardinals will open up against the Dodgers tomorrow. The big news yesterday following the Dylan Carlson injury was that Victor Scott II is going to be making the roster, and from everything that Mo and Ollie have talked about, he's your everyday center fielder. If he's up here, if he's on the team, he's playing, and he's going to get thrown right into the fire from the get-go. Claibs, I know you would kind of put it at 50-50 at one point in the spring training as to whether or not he's going to make the roster. He gets sent down. He immediately gets called back up and put on the team. So not the conventional way to go about it, but hey, we've seen this happen before, where a guy gets injured, a rookie comes up, and kind of lays his claim to being on the big league team.
Yeah, I was talking to Vince Coleman yesterday about that. That's how he came up. Willie McGee pulled a hamstring, and Vince Coleman gets called up, and he never went back. And there's some similarities because I know Vince worked with Victor Scott a little bit, and they kind of have the same kind of demeanor. The college guys that were other athletes. They played other sports before they played baseball. But yeah, you know what, man, that's the way this game works. And I was having dinner with some people last night, and I said, how do you think we'll be talking about Tommy Edman in July? Because you think about last year, he was your best outfielder. Now, Carlson plays well. Victor Scott's playing well. You think about Burleson, who played really well this spring and defensively. I don't know where Tommy Edman is going to play, because I think all those guys have the ability to be better numbers offensively than Tommy Edman.
I mean, there's a lot of what ifs that we could throw into this, and baseball always seems to have a way of working things out itself, whether it's injuries or just performance on the field. I mean, there's probably a few different scenarios that we could be talking about when it comes to where Tommy Edman plays that we're not even mentioning right now. So there's, they have a month. These guys have at least a month. Victor Scott probably has a month to prove himself in center field. Where is Mason Wynn going to kind of fall into all of this as the season starts? So a lot of question marks. What is, we kind of know what the bullpen's going to be. What's the bench going to be now leading tomorrow? So it's going to be Carpenter, Crawford, Herrera. Who's that fourth guy on the bench?
Michael Ciani.
Okay, so he's
another outfielder. Yeah, you need another center fielder.
So he too. And he has, have you been impressed by what you've seen out of him in the spring?
Not really. I mean, he hasn't done anything wrong. He's made some dazzling catches that maybe most people would have made routinely.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't do anything that really excites me. I mean, to
Right.
the point where like we got to have him. I mean, I think he played well enough to earn an opportunity, but I don't think he's not shown the ability to be that difference maker yet.
Yeah.
He'll be, you know what? He'll be a late inning guy. You know, if you have Burleson or, you know, in the outfield, you probably have him come in and play for Burleson defensively.
We know that drawing a blank on the name of the fifth starter to start the year for the Cardinals, the lefty.
Zach Thompson.
Yes, Zach Thompson. We know he'll be in the rotation with Matz and Gibson and Lynn and Michaelis to start the year. Helsley, Gallegos, Romero, Kitteridge, Palante, Libator, O'Brien, Fernandez. That is going to be your bullpen. It looks like to start the year as well. There's some injuries to that pitching staff. That's not the bullpen. I think that you wanted to come into the season with either.
No, I think especially when you think about Fernandez, who's a Rule 5 guy, and O'Brien, who's a guy you picked up in the offseason, you know, you kind of had those guys for protection with regard to the minor leagues. Oh, well, now you couldn't do it with Hernandez because he's a Rule 5 guy. I thought O'Brien pitched really well. He did some things that kind of, when you watch him, you know, he's got a good sinker, good slider. Hernandez was okay. I wouldn't say that Hernandez is a guy that I'm foaming at the mouth to have, but you know what? He didn't do anything wrong. Mm-hmm. Kittredge is a guy who comes in, he knows what he's here for, and he did it. I think Middleton is the X factor here because he got off to a good start. We don't know how severe this form issue is. We hope that it's not something that's going to shut him down for a longer period of time. But, you know, it's better bullpen than what we ended the season with, that's for sure.
So Thursday afternoon is when the Cardinals start their season. Claibs, what is the starting lineup going to be tomorrow for the St. Louis Cardinals?
Donovan, Goldschmidt, Gorman, Arenado. I would put Burleson. I'd put Burleson in the 5-hole and then drop Contreras, followed by probably Scott, Walker, Wynn.
Really? Scott over Walker. What does he have that to put him up there?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I want to have. I would have him bat ninth. I might put him in the 9 spot and move Walker and Wynn up because the thing is, you know, he's going to be on base in front of some good hitters. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be an X factor. So, but the challenge here is this. He's on base in front of good hitters. If he starts stealing bases, that's going to leave a base open. They'll be pitching around certain people.
Right.
So you got to be careful on where you hit him, I think. And that's something that Ali and I are going to talk about a little later today with regard to how that order is going to shake out. Because I think it's very intriguing. I think that when you have a dynamic player like that, or the potential to be dynamic, you know, you want to put him in a winning situation, but you don't want to take the thunder away from other players as well. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I just think he is so unique. He has the ability to be so unique. This is something we haven't had in a long time. And how you use him, I think, is going to be very intriguing.
Yeah, Cardinals and Dodgers tomorrow. It's Miles Michaelis against Tyler Glasnow, a 3:10 St. Louis start time. 1:10 out there in Los Angeles for the season opener for the Cardinals, third game of the season for the Dodgers. We got a lot to talk about when it comes to that Dodger team and particularly one player. We will do just that when we get back right here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on Claibs Online.
Can Graybar help my electrical and datacom jobs be more productive?
Yep. Our supply chain services are designed to do just that.
Like job site services?
Yep. We deliver the products you need where and when you need them, no matter your industry.
What if I have technical questions?
Yep. Our specialists are top-notch.
Emergency support?
Yep. Even after hours.
They're a unicorn.
When you need to keep your projects productive and profitable, rely on Graybar to help you get the job done right. No unicorns required. Yep, Graybar does that.
Back here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on Claibs Online. Brought to you also, Claibs, by your friends at the Painting and Decorating Foundation.
The Painting and Decorating Foundation do a phenomenal job in training young people to an outstanding profession. When you think about how much money you spend on college, and college isn't for everybody. It's a great tool for sure, but when you think about what painting and decorating does, they give you what would be deemed a college education when it comes to the things they offer. A lot of people have found this to be a great way to make a living. In some cases, there's a lot of money to be made, and it's a career you can take anywhere in the world. If you haven't had a chance to check them out, and you'll understand how things work from a financial standpoint, how you can get your career off on the right foot. And I tell you one thing, there's a lot of people who've gone through the Painting and Decorating Foundation and have found themselves to be very successful in their careers and start their own businesses as well. It's an incredible way to make a great career work for you.
Tomorrow, Rammer and I will have the debut season 4 episode of Daily Cards Live, and we'll bring that your way each and every weekday before or after, in some cases, Cardinal baseball games, but we'll bring that to you each and every day here on Claibs Online and wherever you get your podcasts or video feeds with Claibs Online. So tomorrow morning at some point, we'll have the pregame for the game, the Cardinals-Dodgers game tomorrow. We talked a little bit earlier last week. Raymer and I did kind of an impromptu preseason episode of it right after the 2 games in South Korea and right after all of the news came out about Shohei Ohtani and his interpreter being fired by the Dodgers for gambling. They're saying just on sports. They're not saying baseball is involved in this, but Shohei's interpreter accused of stealing is what the story is now. $4.5 million out of Shohei's bank account. Claibs, you're out there in LA. You were out there in Arizona around all of these teams for the past couple days. What are you hearing? What's the sense you're getting around this Shohei Ohtani news that broke last week?
Not much. I mean, I think we in the media have, we keep adding fuel to this. You talk to anybody here in LA, you talk to people in Arizona, they don't really care. I mean, is it a story? Yeah, it's a story. But I don't think it has the sizzle that people want it to have. Because here's the thing that we got to come to grips with. This gambling thing isn't going away. And it's going to be part of something we do. Everybody said, well, we can't do this. We can't have gambling. Man, they bought everybody off. So I don't think it's having as much of an impact. Now, I'm sure tomorrow when we get to the ballpark, there's going to be some buzz about it. And, you'll have news people trying to do a sports story and vice versa. But overall, I think people in baseball really don't, they've moved on from it. I think this will be around for another week or so. There'll be some jokes made about it and all that. And I think the other thing that comes into play here is because he doesn't speak English publicly, that it's really hard to get information from him and have him talk. His representatives have kind of botched this thing, in my opinion. And baseball's trying to, stick their chest out as far as them being involved as well. But, at the end of the day, man, I don't think people really care. I really don't. I mean, it's a victimless crime in this situation. And had he done it in another state where it's legal, we wouldn't even be talking about it.
I agree with you on that. It is victimless crime, and from what's
victimless crime by his alleged interpreter, because he hasn't shown, Ohtani hasn't done anything that we know of. Yeah, I mean, we want to pin it on him, but so far you can't.
And to say pin it on him, exactly what are you pinning on him? I know there was the thread that came out showing some bad games that he had and kind of tying things back to bets that were made in Japan. But regardless of that, if you are looking at what his interpreter was accused of in all of this, it looks like it was football, basketball, soccer that was in the mix for things that were going on. I think more you look at it and you look at the fact that, okay, we're going to get mad at this guy when every segment that's being talked, the segments on SportsCenter, or the segments that are being talked about, are sponsored by FanDuel or DraftKings or Caesars, and we're wanting to make a big point about that. And I think when you look at this, you go, okay, well, if we're gonna kind of brush this under the rug, what do we do with Pete Rose at some point?
That two different subjects. Pete Rose bet on baseball. Admittedly, Pete Rose was never contrite about his betting. That's different than what we're dealing with Shohei Ohtani. So those are two different stories.
Is there going to be any change, you think, to Pete Rose over the next couple years? Does Pete Rose get into the Hall of Fame while he's alive?
No. I think that's such a back burner issue. I don't think so. I think the steroid guys will get in before Pete Rose.
Yeah. While we're before we wrap up on baseball talk at the start of the opening day, we saw Jordan Montgomery sign with Arizona, 1 year, $25 million. Why was Arizona the only team that could jump on something like this? 29 other teams did not sign Jordan Montgomery for that.
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons why. I think that the value of Jordan Montgomery might not be as great as maybe he thought. I think Jordan Montgomery is a great number 2 or 3 on a very good team. I think the fact that he's not going to be ready to pitch for at least a month, the fact that you have the luxury tax, which I think scared some teams who were going to be over. I think that really came into play more than people want to admit. And you know what? It's at one point, maybe Jordan Montgomery didn't want to play for certain teams.
Yeah.
And I know people like the Cardinals. I know there's a story written yesterday with regard to, it's kind of same great money as Sonny Gray. Yeah. But who's to say that Jordan Montgomery wanted to pitch in St. Louis? Who's to say Jordan Montgomery wanted to pitch in San Diego or wherever? He has to say so in this whole thing too. So I think until we know where his head was with regard to where he wanted to be next, for people to be down on a respective team because they didn't sign him, not knowing the details on why they didn't or why they couldn't, I think is unfair.
The one big rule change in baseball this year seems to be the obstruction call at the bases. We're going to be seeing a lot of this in the first few weeks of the season. How much of it have you seen so far in spring training?
Saw it twice. I don't know if it's going to be as big as you think.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What I mean by that is that when I say we're going to be seeing it a lot in the first few weeks, anytime it happens, it's going to be blown up, and it's going to be, and we're going to see all kinds of stories about it. We're going to see the videos of it, going viral because it's a new rule and it's having an impact on the game. So much like a few years ago when the pitch clock was put into to play, anytime something would happen, a violation would happen, you'd see the highlights of it. So it's going to be overemphasized the first few weeks of the season.
And that's because the umpires have been instructed to enforce it. I mean, the rule's been there forever.
Yeah.
But, now they want to enforce it, and I get it. But, I thought that was part of the reasons why you made the bases bigger, where there was more opportunity to tag the base.
Yeah.
So, we'll see it a couple of times. We'll see it a couple of times, but I don't think it's going to be a game changer like some people think.
What would be I guess what's your win total for the Cardinals this year? What kind of team do you see them as?
I don't want to get into a prediction because I think there's just too many injuries to deal with initially, and we don't know where these injuries are going to take them.
Yeah.
I think that for people to say, well, they're an 84 win team or whatever, maybe they are. I just don't know how anybody can assess that considering the injury factor and so many new faces in different roles.
Let me ask it a different way then. 84 to 88 wins, does that clinch them to Central?
Probably so.
Okay.
Because it's only 3 teams that are going to compete. You got the Cardinals, you have the Cubs, you have Cincinnati. I don't think Milwaukee's in a position to win. I don't think Pittsburgh's in a position to win. So I think it's a 3-team race. And I think whichever team can pitch the best, I think is one that's going to win. I think all those teams have good offenses. Cubs are really good defensively. But, everybody's talking about pitching and not having enough of it. I think Cincinnati's issue is then they're dealing with some injuries also. They have so many young players who are ready to turn the corner, but they don't have anybody to lead them around the corner. If you look at Chicago, they bolstered some areas, but they still looking for some more pitching also, and they're going to go with some younger guys.
We will get out into it all tomorrow. Cardinals season opener, 4 in Los Angeles, 3 in San Diego before they come back here on April 4th for the home opener against the Marlins. Claibs, you are already out in LA. Rammer and I will have Daily Cards live Thursday and Friday of this week. All kinds of Cardinal coverage coming your way on Claibs Online. We will take a break. When we come back, wrap up the show today, talking a little March Madness. Sweet 16 starts on Thursday, and we'll go over some of those games when we come back. It's Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Gray Bar, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura.
The Cardinals host the Marlins Saturday, April 6th, and that day, 25,000 fans, 16 and up, take home a Cardinals Hall of Fame Car Parade bobblehead. That's courtesy of Ford. Be surprised at the gates when you get one of the 2 mystery bobbleheads. Will it be Jason Isringhausen, or will it be the secret weapon Jose Oquendo? Find out and get your tickets and more information by going to cardinals.com/promotions.
I think that might be the first bobblehead to feature a cell phone that's also in it. There's a lot of props in that Jason Isringhausen bobblehead. He's on the car and he's got the phone in hand. The folks in the Cardinals marketing department, they went all out when it comes to the detail they've put into that bobblehead, Claibs.
I got to be honest with you. I hadn't paid that close attention to it. I'll look for it next time. I'll look for it at the ballpark.
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll get you one of those. We'll get you the Izzy one. Make sure Ben gets on that for you.
I'll put it right next to my. Oh, wait a minute. I don't collect bobbleheads.
You don't even have any in the box. You don't have a closet with the boxes that have been given to you or anything like that.
No, you know what? I get one and I try and find somebody who's a collector or some kid.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy.
I'm
not even a memorabilia guy. I mean, I have some game-worn jerseys by some Hall of Fame athletes that are in a box or in a container that I've never hung up, didn't sell them. And I need to do something with them. Maybe I'll frame them.
You got to get those framed. It's a process to get those, get any kind of jerseys framed. I have the bobbleheads I have down on my wall. I got my Frank Thomas bobblehead and my Jay Randolph Sr. bobblehead down there. Fairmont came out with a Jay Randolph Sr. bobblehead a few years ago, and Jay just drove around with them in his trunk. So one day I grabbed one out of there.
Okay. I'm glad you're a collector.
That's not a collection. 2 of them's not a collection. My favorite player and a Jay Senior bobblehead is far from a collection.
Okay.
What do you collect then? What do you got? Just pictures? What?
I'm not a collector. No. I've kind of. Here's what I didn't intentionally do it. I have a collection of every media credential.
Yeah.
For Super Bowls, NBA, boxing events, spring training, World Series, it goes back to the 80s. So, when I come in the house, I just hang them on this lamp to the point where it was so heavy the lamp fell over. But I don't know. I'm not a collector. I'm a jewelry. I'm a watch collector. Things from an accessory standpoint, but from a sports memorabilia standpoint, no.
I have all mine in a box, all of my credentials, and at one point I was going to sort through them and kind of go by decades of it and kind of sort them out and do something with that, but it got to be too much, and I just kind of threw them all back in the box and said screw it, and now that's still where they sit. Claibs, we have Sweet 16 action beginning tomorrow night as the tournament underway, second weekend in a row for that. You have Clemson, Arizona tomorrow, San Diego State, UConn, Alabama, North Carolina, Illinois, and Iowa State. Of those 4 games for Thursday night, UConn has been just extremely dominant in their first 2 games of the tournament last week.
They have been. I think they're the odds-on favorite to win again. They don't have many holes in their game. It's interesting you bring up Arizona. They're staying in the same hotel we are, and they went out to dinner as we were coming in, and I was like saying to myself, wow, this is a real basketball team as far as the size and everything else compared to the teams we have locally. And they're well coached too. They have a good chance to go deep as well.
Mm-hmm.
But as I told you earlier, this year the tournament really didn't wet my whistle, and I think it had a lot to do with the fact that there's so many players that you're not familiar with, because this time last year they were playing somewhere else. The game has changed so much as far as how you play it and how you coach it that it's hard for fans to even follow it. So you follow teams because they're your school, not because of the players.
Yeah. The matchup that we're still a weekend away from getting, and I think the way the bracket plays out, it wouldn't be a matchup that we get until the actual championship game, is, I mean, UConn Purdue, to see the big, I mean, when's the last time that we saw two guys 7-2 that knew how to play at 7-2 go head to head in a college basketball game, and Klingon and Eddie for Purdue? I think that's the one. If we get to that, I'm trying to think back when, I mean, Claibs, it might have been back in maybe the 80s that we've seen two centers like that go at it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. You probably would have to go back to the 80s. And I couldn't pick out one particular situation, but it just doesn't happen very often. I mean, the game has changed in that regard too, about the emphasis on big men. But when you have one that can play, it changes the game. There's no doubt about that. So I'm anxious to see it if it happens, because I'm not a guy who rates guys from whether they can play in the NBA or not. We're talking about college basketball.
Right. Would Ewing and Olajuwon, would they have met up back in the day in college?
Yeah, Ewing. Yeah, I think they probably would have.
I mean, they're both 61, so they both would have played at the same time.
I'm trying to think of the second time Georgetown played out in Seattle. Boy, I need to think about that one, because Houston played North Carolina State. You know what? I have to look. Earl Austin would know that.
Right.
I don't. Yeah, I have to think about it. But I think your point being, it's been a long time since we've seen two quality players,
and that's the thing,
face each other. But it just doesn't happen very often.
No, there's been plenty of guys that have come through, 7'4" guys, but you also look at them and you go, this guy, they get drafted, they end up on the end of a bench somewhere because they can't play in the NBA, or they just never face off against another guy that's their size,
right?
In college hoops, and they don't make it as far. But in that case, both those two guys, centerpiece of their offense, they're both number one seeds now in the tournament, and we're going to see them this weekend. Locally, Illinois is still in it. 2 good wins for them this to start it off, and they, as we mentioned earlier, they play Iowa State tomorrow night. That's the late game tomorrow night in Boston for the East brackets. So far, so good out of the Illini.
Yeah, I think Illinois poses matchup problems because of their size. And they're well coached too, and they can guard some people. So they'll always be in the conversation. And they're good enough to get to the Final Four.
And the other side on Friday night, North Carolina State, Marquette, Gonzaga, Purdue, Duke, Houston, Creighton, and Tennessee in that.
Boy, Houston, Kelvin Sampson knows what he's doing. I'm pulling for Marquette because of Shaka Smart. I've always liked the way he's coached his teams. Not because he's in Marquette. I could care less about that. But point being, I like the way he's coached. The other schools, you know what? Listen, man, all these guys are nothing but a 3-point shot away from winning this thing. Okay? I mean, last-second shots are in vogue these days. So I don't know if they have enough to get to the finals, but they certainly can make it interesting for people.
As we saw through that first weekend of the tournament, it's been, when you look at the Sweet 16, there's a lot of chalk so far in this. It is there's no, I don't think there's any. Are there any double digits in? I
think there's one.
North Carolina State. North Carolina State's the only double-digit team left. So no huge Cinderellas this year. You had a couple upsets in the first round, but they were taken care of. right away in the second round of the tournament. So far, I mean, it's just been the good quality basketball teams that have been there all along. But on the other side, the one upset you did have, Oakland knocking off Kentucky. You have John Calipari losing yet again. And I don't know if you had a chance to listen or read his post-game quotes. He was real quick to throw his players under the bus after the game.
Well, I guess he can do it because he doesn't know many of them because of the portal. He has no real bond loyalty to them. And, obviously they got to change some things at Kentucky. They're expected to be better. I don't think it's the fact that Kentucky lost. It's because they lost to a team that nobody ever heard of.
Right.
And it's ironic. I was in a venue the night that game was taking place and almost saw a Pier 6 brawl in this venue because of some Kentucky fans that were ready to go. And I'm like, it's come to this? I mean, seriously, they were one word away from destroying this place. I mean, it was that contentious. And I'm saying to myself, let me get out of here because I'll be the one that gets named in this whole event. But, people take it serious. And, I think it has a lot to do with the betting, the gambling.
Yeah.
And it's come to that. And I don't think that's good for anybody. But it's nothing you can do about it. It's funny because I think the NCAA is trying to try to eliminate prop bets for the tournament. I don't know how they're going to pull that off.
Do you see the story in the NBA? The one guy that's under, where all this news
No, the
about
NCAA.
Ohtani. No, I'm just talking about the NBA. The one guy that's being accused of betting on himself. I mean, basically throwing games, betting the under on himself, and taking himself out of games, saying he's sick or injured in games. I think made about $1.4 million is what they're alleging out of him.
Yeah, man. Again, this thing is going to grow and grow and grow, and I don't know how you stop it.
Yeah,
you're not giving the money back.
Yeah, Jonte Porter, the guy from the Raptors.
Yeah, you're not giving the money back, so I don't know what you're going to do.
Right. So he was a G League guy, a two-way player, making about $400,000.
That's not Michael Porter's brother, is it?
It might be.
I think it might be.
He's won't be around for long if any of this is true. So, by the way, you mentioned news. Any news you're hearing on SLU and their coaching search?
It's my understanding that the guy from Indiana State is his job. And the sooner they lose, the sooner they can make an announcement. I'm a little surprised in one manner that we didn't hear other names mentioned. And I don't know how good this guy is anyway. Everybody speaks highly of him. But they spoke highly of Travis. They spoke highly of Jim Cruz. They spoke highly of just about everybody else. So I don't know. But it sounds to me, from what I've been told, that it's a done deal. They're just waiting on him to lose.
All right. It is. Jonte Porter is the older brother of Michael Porter. So that is the former Mizzou player. They brought him to Mizzou so they could get his brother back in the day. Claibs, tomorrow you start season number 19 behind the microphone with the Cardinals on KMOX. And any last words of wisdom leading into the 2024 Cardinal season?
Well, I was having dinner with a group last night that were pretty apathetic about the team. There was no buzz. There was no excitement. And I think that this is something that is going to take some time this season. I like the direction. I like the intent. It just now guys just have to go play. And I think that they can be pleasantly surprising in what they're able to do. I think this first month is obviously a real challenge. But you know what? If you're going to win something, you're going to have to deal with a challenge. So I'm not going to use that as an excuse. Because you expect them to be better than what they were last year. And part of that process is doing better no matter what the challenge is. So I'm anxious to see it.
They start the year with two 23-year-olds, a 22-year-old, and a 21-year-old in their lineup. So a very young, exciting lineup coming your way for a team that I think all of the critics over the offseason were talking about how old the team was. I don't know how many lineups in Major League Baseball you're going to find with 4 guys under 23 and younger.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Joe. And I think the other thing is you have cynics who just look for something to complain about and, raise an eyebrow to and not looking at page 2 of their complaint. And I think the youth thing is something that they're trying to address, which is why they brought in so many veterans to kind of create the balance in showing these guys how to play at this level. So I'm anxious to see how things unfold. A lot of people we'd be paying attention to, whether it's Walker or Wynn or Scott, whether it's the older pitchers. Is this the year Gorman breaks out if he can stay healthy? There's a lot of questions out there. And we haven't even talked about the guys. What happens when this guy comes back? What happens when that guy comes back? A lot of things that go into play.
He is Mike Claiborne. I'm Joe Roderick. More Cardinals coverage coming your way all week long here on Claibs Online. But for now, that's the lunch show with Claibs and Joe, powered by Gray Bar, driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura, right here on ClaibsOnline.com.
Munganast St. Louis Acura would like to upgrade your current BEV experience. The new ZDX offers the performance that you expect from Acura, but upgrades your ownership experience with our award-winning team. Whether you're looking for a more convenient charging solution or an upgrade to a new vehicle, come in today and make a reservation for the all-electric ZDX coming soon. Munganast St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you.